So today we're doing a Flashback Friday. Even though it is Wednesday, we do get all the questions, compile all the questions from you through the comments on Friday. And so we've got some of the most common questions that I think we get asked as a result of these webinars or through the Ask system. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that today. So question one, and like Dan said, we are going to get into political speech in our next webinar in more detail, but the question is, an employee made a social media post about political issues that I find offensive. What can I do? Well, employers do not have to allow employees to post. I think we have on the next slide. Oh, there's more information. The employers do not have to allow employees to post content that would violate the employer's established policies. So your social media policy should still prohibit hate speech or content that is harassing or discriminatory in both their personal social media, and if they operate the employer's social media, of course, you can monitor what they say through your social media. But if the employee post contains harassment or discrimination, that is something that you can prohibit. If things like dress codes banning political caps and t-shirts are acceptable as long as they are enforced against all parties and affiliations. So you can't allow a Trump hat, but say you can't have a Biden hat. You have to either say all of them or none of them. Employers can also prohibit social media postings that is false or defamatory or would violate confidentiality policies. You can make rules about posting on work bulletin boards or the company intranet because that is owned by the company, and employees do have other ways. If you should allow personal use of company email so that employees can organize, they can get in touch with each other without having to put something on your bulletin board. But wait, employees engaging in concerted effort for mutual aid, which is more than one employee talking about their working conditions to try and improve them. Sharing compensation information, something you can't prohibit. If you've got one employee posting on Facebook, this place sucks, the wages are too low, and another employee likes the post, you've got concerted effort for mutual aid, and that is protected under the National Labor Relations Act. Any talk about unionization, liking or commenting on a union account, talking with other employees about the need to unionize, posting video of unsafe working conditions, that all is something that you cannot prohibit under the NLRA. Using the company logo on social media, you are required to allow employees to identify themselves as an employee of the company. If they are doing this to raise awareness about working conditions, you should have a policy that requires employees to post that the opinions expressed are the employee's own and do not reflect the company's position. But if they are sharing compensation in social media or reporting unsafe working conditions or unfair pay data, pay equity, or complaining about working conditions with coworkers, including discussions about unionization, you cannot tell them to take that down, even if they have the company logo up there or identify themselves as a company employee. So question 2, an employee is behaving strangely around customers and coworkers. We're worried she may disrupt business. Can we terminate her? And this happens when employees' customer service starts to change if they're if they're sharing information about their personal lives with customers, or making unusual comments in the workplace. Basically anything that you worry will jeopardize your relationship with customers because of strange and unusual behavior. Generally, the initiation of strange or unusual workplace behavior, or also sudden attendance issues, is a sign, could be a sign of a mental health condition, and not just your employee no longer caring about the job and acting out or trying to ruin your relationship with customers and clients and vendors. You can walk up to the employee and ask if they have, if there's something that's causing trouble with them performing the essential functions of their job. You can ask if it's a medical condition causing their behavior at the job. You can ask for more details if they say no, or if they don't want to provide those details. You generally can't make a medical inquiry, but if there is something happening that appears to be a serious mental health issue, you can ask, what's causing the behavior at work. So the ADA permits asking for medical information only when it is job related and consistent with business necessity. However, if your employee is having trouble performing her job and is, saying inappropriate things to customers, and it is affecting your business, that is job related and consistent with business necessity. So you can ask if the employee has a mental or physical disability. This is where you need a job description that lays out acting appropriately with customers, clients, and vendors, and performing to your standards. You can put not sharing personal information with customers, clients, and vendors. However, that's personal information. You can't prohibit disclosing compensation information. You can prohibit violent or threatening behavior. You can prohibit discrimination, harassment, and bullying. You can't put a courtesy clause in your handbook anymore, saying that everybody has to be nice to each other, but you can require cooperation with customers, clients, and vendors in there. So you should tell the employee if they do say that they have a mental or physical condition, that you would like to provide a reasonable accommodation for them to perform all the essential functions of the job to your standards. Explain the interactive process. Tell them if they do not participate fully or complete the interactive process, you no longer have to accommodate, and they may be disciplined or terminated for that behavior. Can we put the employee on leave until we get information from the healthcare provider? Again, this would be an employee who is having trouble being appropriate in the workplace. Leave from work is a reasonable accommodation under the ADA, and the ADA requires that you provide an employee with a disability with a reasonable accommodation, but you may choose the accommodation as long as it is reasonable, and you don't have to provide the employee with their first choice. If there is a direct threat to the health and safety of the employee or others, this is something you can use to remove them from the workplace, but that is a very high bar to clear. You can provide the employee with leave as a reasonable accommodation until you get more information and clarify the employee's restriction. If they admit they have a disability, you can send them home as a reasonable accommodation until you get more information that will allow you to consider other potential information. FMLA requires 15 calendar days to return the medical form. This is reasonable for the ADA interactive process questionnaire. However, if your employee has a good excuse for not getting in 15 days, say their doctor's appointment is 3 days after the deadline, you should accommodate, but delaying the return of the questionnaire um, for no good reason is failure to participate in the interactive process, and you may not be required to accommodate, and you can discipline the employee for that behavior. Can we provide non-exempt employees with compensatory time off or comp time in lieu of overtime pay? And what if the employee specifically requests it? So compensatory time is a legal term that refers to an arrangement by which employees take time off instead of receiving overtime pay. And generally, this is illegal for most private employers. This is something that public employees do, but it is generally prohibited by the FLSA for private in the private sector. So in most cases, you must pay non-exempt employees time and one half their regular wage when there is overtime work, even if they ask you for comp time instead. There are exceptions. These will depend on state statute in addition to the FLSA. Offering comp time to salaried employees who would not be eligible for overtime pay is a good way to retain work-life balance. If you've got salaried employees who are working a late night in the office and the manager says take the next day off, this would be appropriate for salaried exempt workers, but generally not for non-exempt workers who must be paid time and one half their regular wage for hours worked over 40 in the work week. But this is if the employee is salaried and exempt and isn't eligible for that time and one half pay, this is a way to provide flex time. You can give them holidays off. There are ways to, like I said, there are ways to pay non-exempt employees in comp time, but they are complicated and they are very few and far between. And like I said, this always varies by state law. The law is very delicate, so please open a ticket in the Ask system or subscribe with My HR Counsel before you ever try to do this. My employee wants to take time off for an FMLA qualifying absence, but they tell you they would rather use PTO and unpaid time off and save their FMLA hours for later. Can they do that? You must always designate FMLA when an eligible employee takes qualifying leaves. The employee does not have a choice whether to use FMLA. As soon as you hear about a qualifying condition, employee's serious illness of a family member, employee or partner is expecting the birth of a child or the placement of a child for adoption. For an FMLA eligible employee, you must start the FMLA process immediately. If the employee is absent for 3 consecutive days for the same reason, and you know it's not just a bad cold or flu, start the FMLA process regardless of what the employee wants. If the employee refuses to return the certification of healthcare provider, use the information that you already have about the employee's illness or family member, or obviously you can observe if an employee is expecting, sometimes, not always, but it's not the law that they have to return the certification of healthcare provider. You can designate FMLA without it. It is not a legal requirement that they return that certification. But if you hear about an employee who wants leave and they have a qualifying condition, even if they don't return that certification, you should still designate FMLA immediately. Don't delay the designation of FMLA. Don't let the employee tell you, don't hesitate because you're on, they're using STD or using PTO. Those are wage replacements. Those are not job protected leave. You have to designate FMLA and start counting down ASAP. If they are using STD and you decide to wait until STD runs out and then start the process, you're going to have to give them another 12 weeks on top of the leave they've already taken. So you need to designate FMLA right away. So as you can see, there can be variation from state to state with many of the questions we receive. There can also be differences between federal and state law. Some of the answers to the questions are very straightforward. Others require more interpretation and nuance. The best course of action is to always run your questions by us first. So if you're already a client, shoot us a message on the Ask HR portal. If you'd like to sign up for our services and be in compliance with state and federal laws, please check out our website as noted on the screen, or email info@myHRcounsel.com. This is the best way to avoid getting tangled up in any of those issues and running into some legal problems. So please open a ticket in the Ask HR portal or email info@myHRcounsel.com to learn about our packages and get started as a client. So thank you all for participating in the webinar today. Like we say, compliance is not optional. So there is the contact information on the screen. Thank you for participating in the webinar, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day.